Halloween franchise, 10 burning questions. We're up to Halloween H20. Let's go.
If you like horror, hit that notification bell, smash that like button, and push that subscribe button now.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Nick Push. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, we're up to Halloween H20 on this 10 burning questions series, trying to get through the entire Halloween franchise in the month of October. And oh shit, I gotta get moving on these. But anyway, these are just 10 questions I have I had while watching the movie. Give me your questions. Anything interesting you find that might be a question in the comments down below. And as always, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you answering some of my questions for me as well. So let's get right into it. But before we do that, I just want to talk about this movie for a second. This movie was a big deal. If you're old like me and you remember the marketing for this movie, you remember it's like, holy shit, like, Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back, Halloween H20, 20 years later, holy cow. It was crazy. Like, I remember exactly where I was when I saw the trailer for this. I was at a mall in Orlando on family vacation. And I remember seeing on one of the TVs, all of a sudden the trailer popped up. And I was like, holy fuck, I can't believe Jamie Lee Curtis is back. Like, it was a big fucking deal. So kind of interesting in hindsight to look back, they were making old cracks about Myers in this movie, and considering, he's still going, and we just had movies, taking place 40 or 24 years after that, which is just nuts. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to kind of point out that the marketing to this movie, was pretty interesting, and it was a big deal when we finally got some news that it was happening. Speaking of it happening, let's get right into question number one. My question number one is, what if the studio paid John Carpenter? Now, as we know, John Carpenter loves him some money. Hard to blame him, right? But, in addition to getting Jamie Lee Curtis back, I believe, and I stand to be corrected on this, but I believe the rumor is that they tried getting John Carpenter back. And he said, pay me $25 million, which was a shit ton of money back then. Obviously, it's a shit ton of money now. But back then, holy cow, it's a lot of money. Studio obviously said no. And I think Carpenter basically, threw out a ridiculous number as kind of like, yeah, I'll do it, but you're going to have to fucking, back up the Brinks truck to the Carpenter residence. So it was kind of like a facetious $25 million he was asking for. But what if the studio said, okay, could you imagine? Could you guys imagine John Carpenter directing another Halloween movie? I mean, he's still like back in the late 90s, like Carpenter was way past his prime, right? Everyone says In the Mouth of Madness was his last good film, which was like 94 or something like that. I'm actually a big fan of Vampires, which came out similar time frame, I think a couple of years before H20, but he could have still done it back then. So what if the studio paid Carpenter? What kind of epic Halloween movie would we have gotten? We'll never know. Question number two. Is Will a good character? I know a lot of people that hate the character of Will. Laurie's boyfriend in this movie. Will Brennan. Is it Will Brennan? I can't remember his last name. But anyway, a lot of people hate his character. I am not one of them. I actually like his character. Now, he's got some ridiculous moments, right? That sucky. Gonna get my nipples pierced. But I think he's kind of a perfect component for Laurie's psyche and what she needed and the kind of guy she would go after, dealing with the trauma of 20 years earlier and having to hide it. She goes to a guidance counselor, right? She's attracted to the guidance counselor. Now, is he someone that, is willing to listen, or is he all about sex? Well, both, right? He's, take your shirt off. I know he says that, but he also then starts listening and taking her seriously and trying to get her to calm down, right? So I actually like the character of Will, minus a couple little lines that he has that just feel too late 90s comedic. But I think he's a good character. I want you guys to tell me in the comments if you think he's a good character, because I see a lot of hate for him, and I want to know if I'm in the minority on liking him. Question number 3. Which mask in this movie is best? It's like, I don't know, it's like choosing between 5 piles of shit, right? But let's see. Let's see which mask is best. Obviously, it's not the CGI mask, right? We also have the alien mask, Stan Winston mask, with the big eyes and hair. I think the Stan Winston mask is probably the best mask. Is that the K&B mask? I can't remember. I'm getting all this shit confused. I guess that's probably the best one. Although, hell, the Halloween 6 mask at the beginning of the movie, that's probably the best one. But obviously, that was never going to happen because they saw it and were like, "Oh shit, that movie doesn't exist. We're going to confuse people." Yeah, you're gonna confuse people. Yeah, no shit. This started the trend of. How many different timelines? Yeah, you're definitely confusing people. But yeah, anyway, I want to know which mask you guys think is the best in this movie. And if you say CGI, I'll be pretty surprised. Question number 4. Why the fuck did Michael not kill LL Cool J? Now, I know the real answer to this, right? Because he's LL Cool J. And we wanted him to survive. We wanted him to make a crack about being an erotic thriller at the end. But why wouldn't he just kill him? He's stalking him or behind him in a lot of great scenes in this movie. When Ronnie is on the phone, talking to his girlfriend or whatever. Why doesn't he just kill him? Like, he's the last piece of security. And then he can just kill John Tate and friends, right? Now, I've heard the argument that he was using him, leaving the car there, so he would go tell Lori, so Lori would come back. I don't know if I buy that. Like, I know Michael is smart, right? I know that, but I think there's easier ways. And you're gonna leave a guy with a gun. It just doesn't make sense. Like, kill him and find another way. But yeah, I just think, like, he killed Mr. Garrett right in the hospital. He's killed security guards before. So it just bothers me that he doesn't kill LL Cool J. Question number 5. Michael's eyes. What the fuck were they thinking? I mentioned earlier in one of the masks, a lot of the masks, he's got these huge eye holes. Why? So you can get a shot of the kid from Jumanji's reflection in Michael's eye? Why? Like, know what you're fucking talking about here, as far as what movie franchise you're in. And, the most famous quote, the blackest eyes. Like, you're just showing his eyes? Like, it's not just a little bit. And I know there's a scene in Halloween 2 where Dick Warlock's eyes, when he kills the girl at the beginning, Alice or whatever her name is. I know you can see his eyes there. And I got a problem with that. But at least it's not the whole fucking movie. Like this movie, every shot of Michael, you just see his eyes. And it's just not having an understanding of what franchise you're in. And then realize, not like, I don't know. I think it's just the fucking late 90s, man. Late 90s. All right, we're going to be talking about the late 90s later. Anyway, question number 6. Is this Steve Miner's best movie? Yes, this was directed by Steve Miner, the same person who directed Friday Part 2 and Friday the 13th Part 3. 2 excellent entries in the Friday the 13th franchise. And now he directs a, arguably one of the biggest Halloween sequels ever made as well. Is this his best movie? I think it's up there as far as in the argument. Now, I would prefer Friday 2, probably Friday 3 as well. And actually, I believe Steve Miner directed House for 1985, and I'm a huge fucking fan of House. That'd probably be my favorite movie of his that he's directed. But I want to know in the comments, do you think this is his best movie? Was it a mistake to hire a Friday the 13th director for a Halloween movie? You would think very similar, right? But there's distinct differences in the DNA between Halloween and Friday the 13th. But I think Miner did an admirable job here, with the exception of, like I said, those late 90s issues and some screamish shit, all kinds of stuff like that. But this is a well-made movie. Question number 7. Why California? There's a lot of issues I have with this movie. One of them being Myers. One of them being the move to California. I understand why Laurie would move away from Haddonfield. I mean, obviously she has to. If she changes her name, right? Fakes her death, changes her name. Why California? What they should have done is had her move to the Northeast. And the reason for that is one of my issues with California is it doesn't feel like the season of Halloween. Now, some of that is the cinematography and the score to the movie being not good. But it's also California. If you go to like the Northeast, like somewhere like Salem or Boston, you can capture that Halloweeny vibe, which I think is a big aspect that is missing to this movie. So why California always bothers me. Yes, it's far away from Illinois, but go the fucking other direction where they celebrate Halloween like normal people. Jesus Christ. All right. Number 8. Is this the best defeat of Myers in the entire franchise? So obviously we've had some movies where Michael's gotten away, some movies where he's been killed / defeated, right? Is this the best one? It's certainly up there. I would probably put Halloween 2 above it because I just think it's so epic. It's time, Michael. Boom, and he blows up and you get the firewalk and all kinds of shit. But this is pretty close. I remember being a kid growing up, and I always would say, well, why don't they just chop off Michael's head, chop off Jason's head? Well, sure enough, they did it. We know why the studio wouldn't let them, right? But sure enough, they did it here, and it's just like it's a great ending, and you get that triumphant moment for Laurie to come through. And I don't really like the reaching for the hand, and then obviously it got retconned, which we're not going to talk about that yet. We'll talk about that probably tomorrow. But is this the best defeat of Myers in the franchise? I think it's right up there with Halloween 2. And I'd choose Halloween 2 just for personal taste, but I would have no arguments if anyone said that this defeat of Myers was their favorite. We are on question number 9. 2 left. Question number 9 is, where has Myers been for 20 years? There's all this debate, or there's been all this debate. What is better? The way they did it in H20, where he just disappeared for 20 years, or the way they did it in Halloween 2018, where he's caught and locked back up. I prefer him being disappeared, right? Now, some of the lines are stupid. Never found his body. Like stupid. Like, it's just like you could have done a little more with that. But the question is, where has he been? Has he been in a sewer for years, feeding on rats? That sounds familiar. I hope they don't do that. But where could he have been? Maybe he found some abandoned room in Smith's Grove and was chilling there, staring at the wall, not seeing the wall, waiting for this night in 1998, and humanly patient. I don't know. But yeah, I want to know where you guys think Myers was. What are some logical explanations? And finally, number 10, how has this movie aged for you? For me, I said we're going to talk about the late 90s again, and here's where it is. This movie has not aged well for me. However, in hindsight, certain things have aged well. For instance, Jamie Lee Curtis's performance and the version of Laurie Strode we get in this movie is 10 times better at depicting trauma than Halloween 2018's version of Laurie. I don't even think there's a fucking debate. But the cinematography to this movie, like I said, is horrible. The score is terrible. They tried making it all orchestralic. I don't know. They tried making it epic with that, and it just didn't work. It did not work at all. It doesn't feel like a Halloween movie. It doesn't look like a Halloween movie, and that is one of my biggest gripes. And then you throw in the late 90s stuff. Scream had become popular. There's a score piece from Scream in this movie. They're watching Scream 2, I think, in this movie. They're making all these self-referential jokes. You got the floating head poster. You got all these pretty people. It's Halloween thrown into the Scream era. And there's some good things that came from that. But for me, there's a lot of bad things that came from that because it just doesn't have the DNA that I want in a Halloween movie. So it hasn't aged well for me, but then there's little aspects that I like that I wish I could pick parts of it and put it in the David Gordon Green trilogy and kind of combine it all into one. But yeah, tell me Tell me how it aged for you guys in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time when we do Halloween Resurrection.